Okay, good morning everybody. Everybody hear me okay? Yeah. It's great to see you for joining us again today this year. So many familiar faces and a few new ones as well, so it's absolutely fantastic. You're all very welcome. You've obviously, some of you traveled from quite a long way, so well done making it here. It's fantastic to see so many people here. For the next few hours, I'll be monitoring this stage. We have a fantastic lineup of speakers on this stage. We'll split it in two, so there's going to be a break halfway through at about 11 o'clock. So we have 4 speakers before the break and 4 speakers after the break. I'll introduce each one as they're coming up on stage as we go through. And hopefully we'll have a really good time. Each speaker has 15 minutes. If there's time for some Q&A with the speakers in the 15-minute slots, that's fine. But at the end of each session, just before break and just before lunch, we'll have a 15-20-minute Q&A. I'll ask the speakers back to the stage. And please ask as many questions. Please get engaged. There'll be a roving mic. You can ask some questions as we go along. Okay, so we have some very impressive speakers. So, I mean, I'm first up. I'm the sponsor and monitor for this stage this morning. My name is Pat Slattery. I've met some of you, or a lot of you, here and online over the years. My initial 25 years working in architectural practice as a construction technologist gave me quite a bit of first-hand experience of how badly we do things, I suppose, the poor quality of information that we produce for our clients. And in the last 15 years as a director of ArcDox, we've been trying to do things better, trying to support our clients and our project teams to deliver BIM better on their projects through consultancy, production, training and support. And when we work on teams, we work with everybody on a project team, but it didn't take us long after we started off 15 years ago now that the client is really the most important person in the team. Key to the success of the project is the client. We're over there on booth 3 if you want to come over, have a chat afterwards, have a look, or my details are there as well. I thought just before we kick off, I mean, we've got some very impressive highbrow speakers. I thought I'd bring it just down a little bit just to say what we're talking about when we talk about a client on a project or an appointing party. And just to look at, what is a client? The person or organization that receives goods or services from another person or organization, the provider in return for payment. So that's what we mean by a client. And when we talk about a construction project, we're talking about the person who initiates the project, the person who funds the project, who defines the project requirements. Often clients don't think they need to do that or they should do that. Selects and appoints the project team. Absolutely critical to the success of a project that the client selects the correct team. Clients often don't know how to do that. They need support. That manages the project. Now the client often, and probably quite rightly in some senses, expects the team to manage the project for them, but the client is responsible ultimately for managing the project and approves the project deliverables, receives the project deliverables at the end and accepts them and approves them into the project. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the client. I know the title of this morning session is Client or Appointing Parties. I'm very aware before people shout at me that the client isn't the only appointing party on a project. An appointing party could be the main contractor who's appointing a subcontractor or a designer who's appointing a subconsultant. But for the purposes of, well, certainly my session, I'm talking about the appointing party being the client, the initiator of the project as the appointing party. The problem we have, and that we've found over the years, is when you try to tie down what a client is, it's actually quite difficult. Clients are very varied, from individuals who maybe just want an extension to their house or some renovation done, to entire governments and multinational organizations, who want massive projects, and everything in between come under the heading of clients. So trying to pin a client down and say, this is what a client wants, this is what a client needs, is actually quite difficult, because they are very varied. Many clients, are only interested in their own project. They have their own business to run. They're making widgets or whatever they're doing and they need a new factory. They don't want to learn a whole new way of working or learn all about BIM because it doesn't really relate to them. Obviously, we then have organizations like government bodies who have professional teams who will be delivering on the client side, who should be very familiar with the BIM process. So clients, whatever they are, whether they're individuals or whether they're multinationals and government organizations, need support. They need the support of their project teams in order to deliver a BIM project. What we find is when we talk about BIM, people sort of switch off, generally speaking. But if you turn the conversation to actually what clients want and talk about, understanding the scope of the project, the client being able to understand what it is we're actually giving them, to understand when it's going to be delivered, what time scale are we talking about on the project, how much is the project going to cost, are we going to achieve the quality that we require, and is it going to be affordable to maintain when the asset is built? Is the client getting good value for money, and are their risks being adequately managed? So this is what clients think about. They don't think about BIM. They want their building built better, they want to build quicker, they want to build cheaper. And I know we've all heard that saying before. So clients want that. They don't really think that they want BIM. But the ability of BIM, from a client's point of view, to give them a tool in which they can now understand the scope of the project, they understand what they're going to get better, in its simplest form. 3D BIM, being able to walk through the model, go in and visit the model rather than trying to interpret a set of 2D drawings which are often designed to confuse, understanding the scope. Being able to manage the time better through the model. Being able to extract quantities and manage the cost on the project better. Being able to analyze the project better for carbon use or energy use or structural analysis, whatever type of analysis you need to do on the project, and do that better in the model. And then being able to provide a digital asset that can be used by the client once the building is handed over in order to manage that asset through its life cycle, is a big boon for the client. So clients may say they don't want BIM, they don't know anything about BIM, but what they do want is what BIM offers. So we have to give that to our clients. And in doing this, we shouldn't be making this up. We have our international suite of standards. So if there's any clients here, this is a set of standards. It's our manual or our instruction book on how we should deliver a project. It's in 6 parts, which covers concepts and principles through the delivery phase of the asset, through the operational phase of the asset, how we exchange information on our projects, thoughts about security, and also health and safety, which is not quite published yet. So this is an instruction manual. And clients should, when they're appointing teams, be looking for teams who have got a certification, ideally. Now, we're not in the business of trying to rule people out because they haven't gone through the process of getting certified. We need other ways of determining teams' capabilities and capacity to deliver projects. But an ISO 19650 certification is a good place to start. If a company you're looking to appoint, whether they're a designer or a contractor or a subcontractor, whatever you've got on your projects, you should ideally be looking for that certification. The relationships between people on a project are really set out in the ISO 19650 standard as well. And this is where we get the term the appointing party, which we use for the client. And the appointing party really is the core. It's the first and most important part of the project team. The appointing party will appoint a lead appointed party, a lead designer, a lead contractor to the project. And that lead appointed party will be responsible for a team, other appointed parties or delivery teams on the project. And that group essentially makes up a delivery team. Now, there's multiple delivery teams on any project. You may have a design team, a construction team, a fit-out team, a facilities management team, each one led by a lead appointed party and then with a number of other people within that team. But at the center of all of this relationship is the appointing party, the client, is key to how this works. He's the person who manages this. He's the conductor of this whole process. And that entire group is referred to as the project team. Now, clients, as I said, need to take on that role of being the sort of the conductor of the process, but often they don't have the capability of doing this, or they don't know how to do it. The steps that have to be taken on a project are set out in the standard. We have 40 different steps that need to be carried out on a project by different parties, those actors that I was talking about, whether they're the appointing party, the lead appointed party, or the task teams that are involved in a project. Various different roles that they have to take out through the different stages of the project, from the information procurement stage, through to the information planning stage, through to the information production stage. And at this stage, some of these things will repeat. You'll get to the end of the information production stage at the end of the design phase on the project, and that information goes back to a new delivery team who may be appointed for the next phase of the project. So some of these tasks actually repeat, and ultimately then there's a project closeout once all of the tasks on the project have been completed. So if we just isolate from that the things that the appointing party or the client is responsible for, you'll see it's all front-ended. It's all in the assessment and need and the invitation to tender stage. And if we don't get those stages of the project right, everything that follows after, is challenging, to say the least. If we can get it right, defined right, specified right, then, the rest will follow. There's a little bit for the appointing party to do as they appoint the team in stage 4 there. Then as the information is delivered, they have to receive that information, they have to know how to check that information, and then ultimately the project is closed out. So clients need help in doing all of this. Most clients in our experience don't have the capability of doing this. They need their teams to support them in doing this, or they need to appoint somebody who's going to help them do this on the project. In the assessment and needs stage, there are just a few, this is where most of the functions are. First of all, who's going to undertake the information management function? What are the project requirements? What are the milestones? What are the standards, etc.? What CDE is going to be used on the project? And what's the protocol or the contractual framework in which BIM is going to work? This all needs to be defined at the start. Then at the invitations to tender stage, it's important that you have an exchange information requirements. You define exactly what it is you want your delivery team to produce and how you want them to produce it. There's a few other things there in terms of the tender. At appointment stage, get the team appointed in the right way. Make sure that the protocol is properly defined and included in the appointments. How do you review and how do you accept the information model when it's been handed over to you? Clients often don't have the capability of doing that. They need support from the project teams, or they need to appoint somebody who will do that properly. And at the end of the project, to be able to archive the project information model, take ownership of an asset information model, and to learn the lessons from that project to bring forward into their next project that they need to do, hopefully. So we need to support the client. Clients for the most part, don't know how to do this. They need support in doing this, and the people that are in this hall today are the people who can do that. So we need to step up. We need to be able to educate themselves, first of all, about what this is all about. Everybody needs to understand that. We need to educate clients about the benefits of using digital technologies and using better ways of working to deliver their projects. We need to help them deliver the strategy for the project, how it's going to be delivered, how the project team are going to work together. Drafting the requirements documents and the information delivery plans for the project. Providing training if it's required. The team will need training, and managing the process on behalf of the client. And really what happens then throughout the life cycle of the building, supporting the client in understanding what they can do with that asset information model post-handover. So really sort of be a BIM hero. So I said we need to support our clients. We have a great range of speakers here this morning. As I said, it's broken down into 2 sessions. So in the first session we have Frederico Ramos, Hamani Shah, Andrew Victory, Pedro Pascual, and Peter Monaghan. After the break we have some more speakers, and I'll introduce them as they come up. In the second session, hopefully you will join us afterwards for the second session. And I'll introduce the people to you then as to who will be up on this first session.